Hello and welcome to this new Kerbal Space Program Reborn episode. Today we have a few things to do yet again, but we're starting off really slow because our funds are low, which is why this episode we will mainly concentrate on doing contracts and won't launch any spectacular or interesting missions. Yet there will be a spectacular change regarding the Promita 2 rocket, as you can see launching right here. But more on that later on. And there we have Splashdown. So after a successful mission, I've accepted more contracts as we've needed to do a whole lot of them. Because like I said before, we really need a lot of funds. And thus including launching another Promita 2 rocket, as well as sending data back from orbit of the Earth and Moon. But as you've maybe noticed, the Promita 2 rocket is being depreciated, and we are currently building on new gen Promita rocket, the Promita 3 rocket. So as you can see, the legendary time of the Promita 2 rocket is finally having its end here, as we found a more efficient and cheaper version, the Promita 3, and it has the look of a kind of missile, but it's really not. It's only made for missions and contracts, and since it's much more lightweight, it's much easier to handle and control, and therefore also get into the ocean. So this was obviously just a prototype flight, and changes can and will be made. But for the first flight, this went absolutely flawless, and yeah, this basically affirmed that the Promita 3 prototype will from now on be taking over the huge role of the Promita 2. Because first of all, it's unmanned, which causes a really safe environment, not only the astronauts but also for residents, because the rocket, as you've seen, is not that big. Of course, for larger weight payload missions we will use our Promita 2 rocket as used, because we still produce them, just not as much as on the Promita 3 rocket now. But yeah, we will still use the Promita 2 rocket as it's larger and more capable of carrying heavy payloads into the ocean or whatever you'd have a contract for. That's too heavy for the Promita 3 mission. But like I said, for most experiments the new Promita rocket will do. So as you can see, I'm already designing our second Promita 3 rocket type, and I've replaced the nose cone with a turbojet engine, and this is not a permanent change, it was just added for the contract, hence it fitted there perfectly. And yeah, same with the little boost at the bottom there under the fairing, both of these for the purpose of a contract, and same with the two decouplers on the side. So yes, on the same day, two Promita 3 rocket launched, and were able to test their true capabilities. And as you can see, the second launch of the Promita 3 prototype went absolutely perfect as well, even decoupling first stage and heading on by itself, which is incredible. I've also made sure that the Promita 3 rocket has enough batteries in order to survive a short 5-minute flight, because that's how long it takes to fly up, get to the ocean and stuff like that. So I made sure we have enough batteries for that, because obviously there's no human inside it controlling it, all that. Because yeah, we really feel bad for Valentino Kermit for having to do all those Promita 2 missions. But with our new Promita 3 rocket, it's much easier and much cheaper, and it has a lot of benefits, so I'm really proud of this upgrade. So I've accepted a few more contracts which I've wanted to do urgently, but I first had noticed that there was a COP4 last stage debris actively aerobraking, touching the atmosphere, thus reducing its apoapsis, and that'll go on so long until it'll eventually burn up or crash down or splash down in the ocean. So we will get to this later on, and therefore I only did a few aerobrakes for now due to our next mission being right ahead. And this next mission being the Skipper static fire test. This was anticipated to be a 5-minute long static fire test to test the capabilities of the Skipper engine and maybe use it for future launches as well, because this test was very important because we were actually going to use this engine on one of our lunar missions. This test lasted 5 minutes in total, including a complete shutdown and reignition, throttle downs and ups to simulate max Q and other events that would eventually happen during a real flight. So overall, this test went successfully, and we could now use this engine for rather riskier missions, like I said, for the lunar missions. There was a restart of the engine, and that went absolutely perfect because there was no shutdown or RUD, you could say, for rapid unscheduled disassembly. And yeah, the test itself went absolutely perfect until we depleted out of fuel and therefore finished the test. So after I've recovered that, there was only one last thing to do, which I've said previously, which was to deorbit our COP4 last stage that we have found in orbit. Now sadly it has run out of battery and therefore we have no control over it, but because of it's still touching the atmosphere, we can still spectate it flying down and down and down over and over. Now, like I said previously a second ago, this does not have any battery on it anymore, therefore we don't have any control of it and just have the ability to watch it fall to its death, you could say. So unfortunately we can't perform a landing burn here or try to recover this, because yeah, if it'll even survive the atmosphere, which spoiler alert it will, then it'll still splash down in the ocean or do a hard crash on the surface of Earth with around 200 meters a second, which is impossible for it to survive, and therefore it will disintegrate upon touching the ground. But here's our re-entry, and there's nothing much more to add to this. So as you see this re-entry, I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. I know it was a little short and a little boring, but for that we have got a new lot more funds. So we'll use them in the next video. See you guys next video. Bye bye.